Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring both cleaned up at the Game Awards in their respective years of release, but just like Highlander, there can only be one GOAT. So which game is better? If someone put a gun to my head and said you can only play one game, Baldur's Gate 3 or Elden Ring, which game would I choose? That's what we're going to explore today. In this video, we're going to be pitting Baldur's Gate 3 against Elden Ring to decide once and for all which game is the best. We're going to compare combat, build variety, world design, exploration, storytelling, and much more. So buckle up, grab some iced coffee, and let's face the most difficult decision we'll ever make: Elden Ring or Baldur's Gate 3. In some respects, comparing these two games is like comparing apples and oranges. Despite both games falling into the broad category of RPGs, the core gameplay loop of each title is a bit different. In Elden Ring, we play as the Tarnished, exploring the lands between to fight mobs and bosses, collect upgrade materials and powerful gear, with the ultimate goal of snatching up a bunch of great runes and dealing with that big-ass tree we see from pretty much everywhere on the map, exploring the gorgeous open-world map and participating in fast-paced, heart-pumping combat encounters is the main draw in Elden Ring. The story is vague, and there is no quest log with a bunch of different side and main quests to pursue, so it's pretty much all about the combat and exploration. In Baldur's Gate 3, we team up with other soon-to-be Mind Flayers to form a party of 4, journey through Faerun, and complete quests on a journey to save our own life. And maybe if we're lucky, we can even find some love along the way, unlike Elden Ring.
But you, I am afraid, are maidenless.
BG3 is much more story-driven and quest-driven than Elden Ring. You'll spend a lot of time talking to NPCs and companions, completing missions, and searching for a way to save your own life. There's also a ton of combat in Baldur's Gate 3, but it's much more cerebral than Elden Ring. Because of the turn-based nature, you can spend a lot of time strategizing and plotting your next move on the battlefield. And speaking of plotting your next move, have you thought about what you're getting for the holidays? This video is sponsored by Manscaped, the most trusted brand in male grooming and hygiene products. The search for the perfect gift for your friends or family concludes today with the Performance Package 5.0. It has everything you need to look fresh and clean for the holiday season. Introducing the Lawnmower 5.0, the perfect tool for tidying up around your tool. The ceramic blades ensure a close, comfortable shave every time. Personally, my most used item in the package was the Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose hair trimmer. Built with skin-safe technology, the Weed Whacker 2.0 is designed for you to comfortably clean up those pesky nostril and ear hairs, so you can look fresh and clean. All Manscaped trimmers are cordless, waterproof, and rechargeable. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra also includes Crop Preserver Deodorant, Crop Soother Ball Aftershave Lotion, Lawnmower 5.0 Trimmer, and 2 free gifts, the Boxers 2.0 and Shed Travel Bag 2.0. And right now, my viewers can get an incredible deal on Manscaped. Click on the link in the description and use code BIGDAN at checkout for free shipping and 20% off your order. Big shout out to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. So let's dive a bit deeper into the combat for Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3. Both of these games are at the top of their category, but they are incredibly different experiences, so which one you prefer is going to come down to personal taste. Elden Ring is all about that real-time action. Like most Souls games, it's heavily focused on melee combat, learning how to read and counter boss movesets, with limited time windows to heal and heavy punishment for mistakes. The combat is simplistic compared to melee games that focus on creating combos, chain attacks, etc., yet it's incredibly satisfying owing to the difficulty curve. It feels amazing to overcome a challenge that once kicked you in the ass. I cannot describe the pure joy I felt when I finally figured out how to dodge Melania's waterfowl dance attack and eventually brought her down after over a dozen attempts. You can gain a similar satisfaction from Baldur's Gate 3's combat system, but it's an entirely different process. Rather than controlling a single character and reacting to fast and complicated attack patterns to overcome a tough fight, in BG3 you'll need to secure victory through strategy and creativity rather than reflexes. There are so many different options when approaching combat. Tons of spells and abilities, weapon options, shoving enemies off high places, exploding barrels of oil, and literally throwing potions at your companions to heal them. This variety of options keeps the gameplay feeling fresh even after hundreds of hours. Personally, I tend to lean more towards action combat when compared to turn-based. I really didn't even like turn-based games that much until I played Baldur's Gate 3, so it is a testament to Larian that they won me over to an entire genre. But at the end of the day, I gotta give this category to Elden Ring. The combat in that game is just truly amazing. When it comes to build variety, both these games excel with lots of different options for a variety of playstyle preferences, but these build choices are expressed a little bit differently. Elden Ring primarily expresses build through weapon choice. Different weapons in this game have different movesets, swing speeds, and stat requirements to wield, which can greatly impact how you approach boss encounters and combat in general. On top of this, you have a variety of spells, summons, and other magic that you can utilize to help take you to victory. But you won't have a rigid class choice per se. Sure, you will pick a class at the outset, but this really just impacts your starting gear and stats. You can easily spec into whatever attributes your heart desires and completely change your build and playstyle as you progress throughout the game. Meanwhile, Baldur's Gate 3 has more rigidly defined classes to choose from. For instance, fighters, bards, and sorcerers will all have completely different abilities, strengths, weaknesses, gear restrictions, etc. And your goal is to build a balanced party that can provide a good mix of DPS and support to help cover all your bases. While both these games excel in build variety, at the end of the day I gotta give it to Baldur's Gate 3. There is simply more depth with classes, not to mention that you're building an entire team of companions with different opportunities for strategic synergy that I personally find more satisfying. I can see myself replaying BG3 for years, making different class build choices and story choices to keep things fresh. Meanwhile, I haven't really returned to Elden Ring since my initial 100-hour playthrough in the summer of 2022. When it comes to world design and exploration, Elden Ring wins by a landslide. The Lands Between is one of the most gorgeous, yet sometimes horrifying, worlds that FromSoft has ever created. And it still stands out as one of the most artistically pleasing open worlds I've had the chance to explore. There were so many moments in my first playthrough where I was completely blown away with the incredible and colorful scenery of the world. From the underground city of Noxtella to the red skies of Caelid and the ever-present Elden Tree, this world is filled with breathtaking scenes that I will never forget. Baldur's Gate 3 just never really reaches that level of spectacle. While I do love exploring the map in BG3, I never really had any of those wow moments the way I did with Elden Ring. I think this is partly due to the top-down camera perspective, but it's also environmental design. Exploration also plays a much more essential role in Elden Ring's gameplay loop. You need to explore to find better gear, upgrade materials, and places to farm XP. And since there are no map markers for quests or story objectives, it's important to get out there and search for the way forward. Exploration is still important in BG3 as you can stumble upon new quests, loot, or other goodies, but most quests offer up map markers, making it a lot easier to track things down without the need to pursue open-ended exploration. When it comes to quests and storytelling, Baldur's Gate 3 takes the more traditional RPG approach. The narrative is delivered in a direct way through cutscenes, dialogue, and gameplay, and our journal quickly fills up with quests to pursue as we solve problems for a variety of characters in exchange for rewards and favors. Elden Ring, on the other hand, takes the vague posting approach to storytelling, which is something FromSoft games have become known for. Most of the lore is buried in item descriptions, offhand comments from NPCs, and environmental storytelling. You pursue goals for vaguely defined reasons, and most of the character background is better explained through VaatiVidya lore videos than direct exposition in the game. Also, Elden Ring doesn't really have any quests per se, at least not in the traditional sense. Rather than getting an objective from an NPC and logging that information in a quest journal, Elden Ring missions follow the format of talk to NPC until you've exhausted all dialogue options, find them when they teleport to their next location, talk to them again, rinse and repeat until they die and drop all their loot. Can you really call that a quest? The player doesn't actively participate in most of these little NPC stories aside from talking to the characters. But can love bloom on a battlefield? Is there someone special we can connect with in the crazy worlds of Faerun and the Lands Between? Well, I think we all know that Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win this category, as these two games are worlds apart when it comes to romance. BG3 companions are aggressively horny, so you'll be swatting away strange left and right if you want to remain single. Meanwhile, in Elden Ring, your character is basically an incel.
But you, I am afraid, are maidenless.
The closest thing to action we can get in Elden Ring is a fully clothed hug with some goth mommy. Meanwhile, BG3 has full-on cutscenes that would land this video in the XXX category. So if you want to get into the more romantic or spicy side of role-playing, then Baldur's Gate 3 is the clear victor. Player choice is a major component of RPGs, and it's something that I personally look for when playing games in this genre. One of my favorite things about RPGs is exploring all the different options and branching paths that can occur when making different story choices. In this regard, Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the best in class, rivaling series like Mass Effect and Fallout in terms of how many options and unique outcomes you can experience when making different choices. This alone provides a ton of replay value if you're the type of person who likes to see all the variations. And props to Larian for allowing you to create full-blown evil characters as well. That's something that's become exceedingly rare in many modern RPGs, which have become incredibly sanitized. But whether you want to be good, evil, mercenary, self-interested, or play the big hero that's here to save the day, Baldur's Gate 3 provides plenty of options to roleplay, make meaningful choices, and create the perfect character for your adventure. So what about Elden Ring? Well, there's simply nowhere near the same level of choice in the game. You pretty much only have a choice of ending, which amounts to slightly different 2-minute cutscenes at the very end. And if you're like me, you probably just made a copy of your save file right before the final choice, and save scum to watch all the other endings. The replay value for Elden Ring comes mainly from gameplay alone, not the story or any choices you make at the end of the game. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just a different kind of RPG. But as someone who really values major story choices and branching paths, I gotta give props to Baldur's Gate 3 for scratching that itch, which Elden Ring simply does not provide. And now we come to the final verdict. I love both of these games for different reasons, and I've sunk well over 100 hours into each title, and will likely play many more in years to come. But if someone put a gun to my head and said, Baldur's Gate 3 or Elden Ring, you can only play one, choose now, motherfucker, I would have to choose, but this hypothetical doesn't even make sense, man. Why would someone put a gun to your head and force you to play only one video game? There's nothing to gain here. Forget about that. It's a hypothetical. Doesn't have to make perfect sense IRL. It's just a thought experiment to force us to make a choice and not sit on the fence. Yeah, but dude, I just don't think some guy would put a gun to your head and make you play either Elden Ring or Baldur's Gate 3. He's not even gonna try and take your wallet or any valuables? What kind of psychopath are we dealing here? I think we need to get the police involved at this point. You're overthinking this. Anyways, gun to my head, my choice is Baldur's Gate 3. I typically prefer open-world RPGs with more action-style combat, so I expected to like Elden Ring more. But Larian just captured lightning in a bottle with their storytelling, characters, choices, and deep tactical turn-based combat, and I simply fell in love. So there you have it. Baldur's Gate 3 is slightly better than Elden Ring in my books. But obviously, I have my own opinions and biases, so I'd love to hear yours in the comments below. Which game do you prefer, Baldur's Gate 3 or Elden Ring? If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more RPG videos, guides, and reviews. Big shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.